Hello everyone, I'd like to thank the Whiskey Drinkers for letting me come on their show to pay tribute to my mom. Everyone that knows me knows that my mom lost her life to cancer April 11th, 2017. I figured that I'd use the social media to bring a positive look on a wonderful woman instead of the rants and things that I've seen on Facebook. So I'm going to pay tribute to my mother by telling the story. It's one of my fondest stories that hits my mom's last day at the hospital and her journey home. If anyone was at the funeral, I told this story at the funeral. But I figure that it's more that I can put it on Facebook for other people to see, because maybe there's other people that lost a family member to cancer, which sucks. But I wanted people to see my mom for the wonderful woman she is. So in telling this story, I'm going to back up and talk about the last day that my mom was at my house, and I could tell something was different with my mother. She normally didn't show or let us know, or at least myself, that she was hurting. She never talked about the cancer much. She always said she was fine. She never wanted to be a burden. And her strength was amazing. But that day, I could tell something was different with her. And she left. I called her the next day, and she said she was fine, of course. And then a couple days later, I got a phone call from my niece. And yes, that's my niece. She may not be married to my nephew, but I call her my niece. And she said that you need to get to the hospital now. And I got to the hospital. I went to the hospital, and there was my mother. And she was in good spirits and stuff, but you can tell that she wasn't happy to be there. And she went through a lot of tests and stuff, and the breakdown was that they said that her cancer spread and they can't do nothing for her, and she's going to just, now it's just for comfort that we couldn't do anything for her, or neither could they. And I've seen this before as a nurse aide. I knew it was coming. I knew that hospice was going to get involved, and that I wasn't sure how long we'd have my mom or how bad it was, but I knew it was coming. So the family decided that we were going to make sure that she comes home, that's where we wanted her. We wanted her to be home for her last days. And then we all had a task to get her home. And the next day, my task was to set up the the nurses, and that would be coming to take care of my mother. So I went to the hospital the next day, and it was already set up for me. It was already done. I did not have to do it, so I got to spend time with my mom. And we sat, and I held her hand, and we really didn't talk much at that time, because I was going to be leaving there to go to the house to help set up for my mom to get her bed and stuff so that she can come home. So I left the hospital with my dad. He came down with me, and we talked a little bit, and I could tell that he was truly shaken. This man's been with my mom for 40 plus years. That's all he knows. So there's a lot of pain there for him, and I feel for him. But anyway, I left the hospital, and I went to my mom and dad's house. And when I got there, my two brothers were working on the Mustang to put it back together, because my mom wanted to hear it. The transmission went out, and they were fixing it. And they were going to get it ready for her, because they were going to take her for a ride. Because we all were thinking, well, me personally knew what was happening, but I believe that my brothers thought that we'd have a lot more time with Mom than we did. And I do believe that was the case, that they was going to get the Mustang going, they was going to take her for a ride, and that she could, I believe that they thought that she was going to make it a couple months, but that was not the case. But anyway, my nephews were cleaning the house and had it all done, so when I got there was nothing for me to do. All I was doing was going back and forth from my brothers to my nephews. And then I was standing in the middle of my mom and dad's yard, well, in the middle of my home, that's my home. And I was just standing there and I was looking around, remembering when I was 12, or however old I was at the time, that there was no house there, there was no garage there, there was nothing. It was a farmland. And I remember my pap standing there with my mom and dad, pointing out, this is where you guys can have, this is what you guys can have. And then my mom and dad turned that into a home for us kids, a wonderful home. And still to this day, it's a wonderful home. But anyway, I got in my car and I made a phone call, and I was asked how things going, and I said good, that, you know, we have everything ready, the bed's here, the bed arrived, it was there, everything was there, but just Mom was not there. So then a suggestion was made to me to go to the hospital and see what's going on. And at that time I wanted to spend as much time with my mom as I could. So I was like, that's definitely what I'm going to do. So I told my brothers and my nephews, everybody, I'm going back to the hospital to see what's going on. I drove back to the hospital, my dad was there, and he was a nervous wreck. He wanted my mom home. And I could see just my mom was draining, that she did not want to be there. So I paged the nurse and asked the nurse, what's going on? What are we doing? Why is my mom still here? And they said that she was discharged, but they were waiting for the ambulance. And the nurse said, well, if they don't call me back in 15 minutes, I will call them. I said, okay. And then I asked my dad if he needed to leave or needed a break, and he said yes. And he took a break and went outside. And I got some really good precious time with Mom. We sat there for a little bit, we held hands, and I said, Mom, I said, I don't know how you can do it with all them grandkids and all them grandbabies, because I don't even like my grandkids. And her head spun around. She said, Mark Lynn Reed. And then I knew that I was about to get my mom's foot up my ass. And she said, you better cherish them grandbabies. And I said, I do, Mom. I do cherish them grandbabies. You were a great mother, that you know, raised me right, and I really, really cherish them. And I said, I thank you. And my mom looked at me and she said, you don't need to thank me, baby. I'm your mother. And I sat there for a few seconds, and she said to me, but you need to make me some promises. And I've mentioned the promises before, but I never said what the promises were because I wasn't ready to. And my mom made me make 3 promises. Promise number 1, that I'd always look after my dad, that I would make sure he's okay. And I told my mom that you don't need to ask of that, because Dad's been there all the time for me, and I will always be there for him. Promise number 2 being that she said, honey, I want you to make sure that you lift them weights and you run, and because you need to be there for your babies. You need to be there for your girls and your grandbabies. And she then said to me that she knows that I've been battling being overweight for quite a bit, that she blames herself because she could have did better at raising me. And I told Mom that that's not on her at all, that's on me, that I will promised that I would start lifting and jogging and stuff and take care of myself. The third promise she made me do was that she wanted me to make sure that I was around with my brothers. That she missed out on a lot of time, that it was just the two and not me, or me and not the two. That she wanted to see all three of us boys together more. And I did promise. So anyway, my dad came back up, and then it was 35 minutes later gone. I mean, it was that quick. And I called for the nurse, and the nurse came and said, I talked to the ambulance, it's going to be another 2 to 3 hours, and I could see the life going out more of my mom. And my dad said the most amazing thing in my life. He said, go get my wife's medicine, I'm taking her home. And then he told me, help your mother get ready, and you bring her downstairs, and we're going to take her home. And my mom's face got all smiles, and she got up, and she was running around like a teenager, got in the bathroom, was changing, yelling at me to make sure I got everything I could, anything that was not bolted down, I was getting for her. And she was just happy as can be. The nurse came, put my mom in the wheelchair, wheeled her down. She, of course, thanked the nurse, gave her a hug, and got in the car. And she asked me, baby, do you need a ride? And I said, no, I will walk. And she said, you sure? And I said, yeah. And I started walking down the road. And it was a long driveway. Then I had to turn to go up the main road to get to my car. And I got down the road and started up the main road, and my mom and dad came past me. And it seemed like it was in slow motion. And my mom was sitting there waving, blowing kisses to me. And I can almost see her to where she was leaving. It was almost like she was leaving the earth. I knew it was coming. And I cried the whole way to my mom and dad's house. When I got to my mom and dad's house, with mom and dad was already there, she was greeted by all her grandkids, her sons, everybody. And you could just see the smile on my mom's face, and just the energy, the excitement that she is finally home, that she was where she wanted to be. And then I got the privilege of taking her, putting her in the wheelchair, and then taking her to the back porch of the house. And then there was 8 steps that we had to go up. And I believe it was 8. And we swung the wheelchair around to face mom up it. And my little brother and I were deciding which way we wanted to and how we were going to get her up there. And my mom's like, I can walk these steps. And my little brother's like, are you sure? And she said, boys, I can walk these steps. And I sure didn't want my mom's foot up my ass again. So I got the privilege of walking her up them steps, and to see the strength in her face and the determination that she was home was my fondest memory. I'll never lose that. And I'll always tell the story to my grandkids. So I got her in the house. I sat her down, and she was wearing my Pittsburgh Steelers hat. And earlier I told her, Mom, I need to take a picture of you with my Pittsburgh Steelers hat, because Tammy will never believe you wore it. And when I was ready to leave, she said, honey, you going to take the picture of me? I said, yes. And I took a picture of my mom. It was the last picture I ever seen that mom was coherent and talking. And I left and went home. And that is the fondest memory I have. And it's the last memory that I have, that of the strength, of the determination that she was going to get home. She was going to go up them steps, and still smiling to take a picture for her sons. So I'm going to make a dedication that to keep a promise that I'm going to start lifting. I'm going to start going to lose weight. And every pound that I lose, I'm going to dedicate to my mother. Because she battled so hard. There's no excuse that I can't. Last thing I'm going to do is read something that my mother gave me. It's called The Pillow of Love. And hopefully I can get through it. February of this year, on a Sunday afternoon, while I was sitting in my chair working on crafts, when I brushed up against my right breast and felt something going to the bathroom to see what it was. I not only felt it, but I could see it was a lump. The next day I called the doctor and went in. That Wednesday had a mammogram to only have the scariest words given to me. You have cancer. Tears filled my eyes and I asked the Lord, why me? And a voice said, why anyone? Sorry, Lord, forgive me for being selfish, I prayed. I'm afraid right now. Will you please walk with me? I felt a touch upon my head and a voice that said, it is I who has always walked with you, my child. It is you who needs to walk with me. With tears running down my face, I looked up and said, Lord, can you please walk with me? And a peace came over me. For the Lord was there with me. He opened my eyes that day to what was really important, His love for us and the love I have for Him. And for all of you I love and hold so dear. Through all the surgeries and all the treatments, I started these pillows. With every stitch, what I went through with my journey through cancer and recovery to stay here with you. I give you these pillows so when you look at them or hold them, you will always feel me love and know He loves you too. And I got that for Christmas. And that is the story of my mother, the wonderful woman. I would ask that anybody who watches this, if you have any stories, you have anything, memories that you have, please put it on Facebook. Let's remember my mother. She was a friend to a lot. She was always there for people. And I want to remember her for the wonderful woman she is. And that's why I said the wonderful woman she is, because she's still there with all of us. So we need to stop this fighting as a family and just remember a wonderful woman.